Hello and welcome to English 1301 online. We are in week 7 and we are moving on to module 3. So this week we will start essay number 3, analysis essay. All right. So we have so far done an autobiographical narrative, which was a story about yourself, and we did the evaluation essay, which was an evaluation of a parenting method based on the articles that we had about different parenting methods. This time we are starting what some people have described as perhaps the most challenging assignment, which is an analysis essay. Rather than do a literary analysis, which is what you be used to doing, we are doing a visual analysis. And the reason we are doing a visual analysis is because we have so many different disciplines of in the career paths that people have chosen, and we have people doing general studies just to get their general associate's degrees. We have people in nursing and mechanics and logistics and operations, process engineers. We have a few sound engineers, I believe. We have so many people in different disciplines with different career paths that we're just going to stick with a visual analysis because it's important to be able to describe what you have seen visually in so many different careers. But it's just important anyways. And like I said, it's a little bit different than what we've been used to doing with literary analysis. So let's get started. So we're going to once again take a look at the basic features of this particular type of essay. And you'll be happy to know that at this point I have ditched the color coding. We have gone on beyond third grade, and now we're just listing them out. So the first thing is this is going to be an analysis essay, but it's a visual analysis essay. So you will need to pick an image to analyze. We're going to go over that in just a couple minutes. So first is pick your image. Second will be the first part of your essay, although, is going to be an introduction that includes your thesis, right? Just like our evaluation essay, just like all essays, a good essay starts with your thesis statement in your introduction. Secondly, you're going to have a description of the image. For this particular assignment, you're going to be asked to describe the image that you choose, whichever one it is, and you're going to be asked to describe it to me in your essay as if I were blind and I used to be able to see, but I can't anymore. So you're going to have to describe what I'm seeing. And then third, you're going to write about your findings, right? The three things that support your thesis in the body of your paper, and then, of course, your conclusion. So, pretty simple structure wise, just like a lot like the evaluation essay, except this time you're going to be analyzing an image. So, we have a couple of things of good information. Actually, there's a lot of good information out here about how to visually analyze your image or where to start with an analysis essay. So let's take a look at this first link, which is the analytical essay outline. And this is from the Purdue OWL. It's one of the links that we go to find out about MLA formatting, but it's so much more. And the OWL stands for the Online Writing Lab at Purdue University. It's just kind of the gold standard for this. So many schools use this. So this particular website talks about how to organize your analysis essay. And I'm not going to go through this with you point by point simply because it's actually one of our homework assignments. So this is what it should look like. It talks about your introduction and different points that you need to make sure that you are getting through to your reader, and just some other good tips for writing an analysis essay. And this can go for a visual analysis or a literary analysis. So this is probably a good site to check out. The next thing I wanted to point out was how to write a visual analysis essay. Now, again, this is an excellent document. It's actually It was a website that I liked so much that when it finally became unavailable as a website, they turned it off. I went into the Wayback Machine and found it and put it in a document so that we could continue to use it because the information is still actually really good. So just read through this. It is set up like the website was, but it does tell you like what is a visual analysis and it gives you a sample of that. It tells you exactly how to write a visual analysis. It's a really, really good website. Well, actually now it's a really, really good document. But there's quite a bit here. It is 14 pages long, but it does give you a lot of information. Now, what it also gives you down here are things like visual elements of design. And I want you to keep these in mind because you're going to come back to them and use them for writing your paper. You possibly could. These are how the elements of images are used to convey different meanings or points or messages. So, how the image is put together and where things are placed can have meaning. um, the different aspects the artist used in there, focal points, what's the focus of the image? Uh, are there particular colors used or is it in black and white? That can have meaning depending on what's in the picture. Lines, where the lines are, how they run throughout the image. Textures, if it's a painting, it can have meaning if there's textures in it. Shapes and how they're used. Forms, lights, degrees of lights and dark, different sizes or the actual size of the image can be meaningful. And symbolic elements, of course, things that are in the picture that have particular symbolism for humans. There's also the principles of design. There's balance, how the visual elements are distributed, the emphasis, what catches your attention, where is your eye drawn to in the picture when you first look at it, or if there's movement. Now, can there be movement in a static picture? Well, not exactly movement, but it can show that there are ways of showing movement in an image. So while a static image may not exactly have movement in it, there could be anything that shows that something's moving. You can tell when then the wind looks like it's supposed to be blowing in a picture, etc. Also, are there patterns or repetition of things that could be meaningful in that if it's being repeated, it's being emphasized. So there must be some reason or some significance to that in an image. And also variety and rhythm. Again, things that even a static image can show. So those are like some important elements. There's going to be more, which we'll talk about. But these are the pretty good ones. I think the good ones to start with. So I want to take a read through that. And then down here is some more information. Analyzing the meaning of visual images. I actually love this picture. There is so much going on in this image. Um, and it's one of the things that when I have a face-to-face class, I spend time breaking this image down because it's so wonderful with so much going on. Um, Part of our analysis with these images is to take a look at them and see if we can find a message or find some meaning or just to see what all the very small details that we can find in an image is. And there are so many in this one. I like to think of this particular image as a generational, it's a multi-generational image. And it's actually kind of amazing when you take a look at it. But when you are taking a look at an image, hopefully to use for this paper, you're going to want to look for the meaning of the image that perhaps the artist or the photographer, who would be considered the artist, had. What is that meaning for them, or was it specific to their time? Um, is there a meaning for you in your time? Were there changes over time? Some things don't change, actually, and many things do. And then what you think the audience's reaction would be and your own reaction, all of these are things to consider when you are writing about a visual analysis. And then it gives you some ideas about how to start your paper. Um, and again, will be specific to us. For us, you are looking for an image that has some kind of message. And the whole point of this paper is going to be for you to determine what that message is in the image is giving and how the image is telling us its message. Okay. Again, I'll talk about it in just a second once we get through with this. Um, you want to examine context and history in some images. There's some history specifically to this picture. It's actually kind of sad. It's orphans who were starving Russian children in 1922. And this was a postcard that was sold in France to help raise money for feeding the starving Russian children, which is actually kind of amazing if you think about it. So, any historical context, that historical context added to this picture makes it much more meaningful than just a weird picture of obviously two emaciated children eating. So, make sure that you do give some historical context if you have a historical photo or if you know anything about it. Is it possible to write a analysis about an image that you don't know anything about? Absolutely. Because then you're just analyzing what you can see and that's fine. And then it gives you a little bit of more information about writing a historical photo. And then citing images in your essay, this is a good place to start. We will have a little bit more on that in the weeks to come. So this is really a great, great document. Be sure you read through it. It's going to be in one of the assignments for the week, so make sure you read through it carefully. I also have here an analysis essay video. I believe this is a Schmoop video, and it's a little simplistic, but honestly, it does have good information. We're going to talk about more strategies later, probably next week or so. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, although it is visible to you. You can take a look through it if you'd like. But I don't want you to get too overwhelmed with this, especially after we just finished the last paper. So, what you really need to do for this next week is to try to find an image, and it needs to be a school appropriate image that you can use for this writing assignment. Okay. And let's take a look at the calendar here and see what we've got coming up. And really, you're not going to need to turn that image in until next week. Um, oh, I'm sorry, not even next week. It'll be over spring break. You're going to have over spring break to think about this image, actually to work on that. So, but I want you to start thinking about it. Now, where can you find images to use? You can find images to use pretty much anywhere. A book, a magazine, an ad. Ads are great, are really great for an image analysis essays. Um, let's see, album covers, CD covers, the pictures that are on CDs and things. Those are great to analyze. Any image that you can see that you can actually analyze um, that has a message. And see, this is the most important part. This is the part that a lot of people get wrong, and that is your image has to have some sort of discernible message. And what I mean by a discernible message is most people need to be able to look at that image and kind of get an idea of what the image is trying to say. So when you choose your image, try to make sure that you pick an image that has something to say. What I mean by that is that it has a message. A picture of a beautiful flower or a beautiful sunrise or even an ugly flower, an ugly sunrise, um, or a red ball or something just super simple, it doesn't have much meaning just by, or much discernible meaning, I should say. Just by looking at the picture, you can't really tell what the message is. Sure, it's a beautiful flower, but it could just be a beautiful flower. Um, it's hard to notice just from a picture of a beautiful flower that that particular flower has a long history. It comes from a particular line of flowers that's been grown for hundreds of years. It's hard to see that just from a flower. And the purpose of this particular assignment, you're going to need to be able to see that sort of thing in the image, which is why something like an ad is great because we all know what ads are trying to do. They're trying to sell us a service or a product. or get us to do something, right? Even an ad for volunteering for something is trying to get us to do something. So it's a call to action. That's an easy message. Then with that, the only thing that the paper becomes is describing how the image is trying to get us to do that, which is what the analysis is about. Another picture that might not be great and certainly isn't great, and I don't recommend choosing, is like a family picture or a picture of you and your bestie or you and your siblings or you and your grandma, um, that sort of thing. Not because I think these pictures are bad necessarily, but they are difficult to write an analysis on because you would have to explain so much about your family before anybody could understand the importance behind that image. If somebody were to look at that picture, they would say, "Ah, yes, this is a great example of familial love. That's wonderful." Or, even familial rivalry if it's a brother and sister. But those pictures usually don't work very well. Also, things like graduation pictures where it's you and your crew and it's the last time you were ever all together. It is very meaningful, and that is probably an amazing picture. However, the discernible message is just happiness in that moment. It's not any deeper than that for anybody else looking at that image from the outside. So, what we might find deeply meaningful to another person just looks like a happy person or a sad person or a pretty flower. So rather than sit there and try to justify the meaning behind a simple picture like that, I'm asking you to find a picture that has some kind of meaning. It can be, like I said, an advertisement, it can be a slide of a cartoon, it could be a meme. If it has words on it, that's fine. That just adds to what you can analyze, as we'll find out in the strategies when we look at those next week. Um, it can be, some people choose sports pictures. I am hesitant to use sports pictures because it's very difficult to explain what's going on or the meaning behind it or the message of the image. Usually the message is something along the lines of either great jubilance because some kind of championship's been won, or great sadness because something has been lost that cannot be ever regained. So I also try to I would caution you to stay away from maybe uh, sports images, which I know you're thinking, okay, I can't do sports, I can't do pretty flowers or pretty objects, and I can't do my family. God, what else is left? Trust me, y'all, there is a world of images out there uh, to be analyzed. Can you use AI pictures? I mean, you can, I suppose, but again, it has to have some sort of message. And I think it's harder than you think it is to simply create a tailor-made message image for this assignment. So I would just go with something that you can find out there in the world because there are so many. And you can use famous paintings, you can use famous sculptures or not so famous sculptures. It can be a painting, it can be a sculpture, it can be a famous photograph taken by someone else as long as it has a discernible message. It can be a photograph you've taken as long as there's some sort of message in it. It's not, like I said, it's not just a pretty sunset or somebody happy skiing or unhappy or anything like that. And plenty of still shots have lots of messages. So you have some time to think about it, about what it is. That your image, your choice of image, and the working thesis won't be due until after we come back from spring break. So we'll be talking about, uh, we'll have that for that week. We'll have that lecture. But start thinking about it so that you can start thinking about what your thesis would be. And your thesis for this particular assignment is going to be something along the lines of the message of the image is blank based on blank, blank, and blank. And your evidence just needs to come from the picture itself. What are three ways the picture shows you what that message is. How does it convey it? How does it describe it? So there you go. That's basically what we have coming up in the pike for this week. This week's assignments, we've got the two. It's just the watching the video how to write a visual analysis essay, which is right here. If you look at here, here is the video. It brings up this video.
Hi guys, I'm
It's
tutor.
actually a really good video about how to write a visual analysis. And the second is Blackboard articles, questions, and comments. And you're going to be asked to look at the how to write a visual analysis paper, which was the second thing I showed you, which is a document that talks all about how to write that. I want you to go through that and really read through it because it can really guide you in this. And then the second one was the Purdue OWL organizing your analysis essay. And you're only going to write 3 questions or comments for both. So a total of 3 only. So pretty simple stuff. But honestly, I think you're going to find that first one very, very helpful. So those are the 2 assignments for this week. And then the tacit assignment of looking for a picture to use. Um, you can use pictures from manga. I don't have a problem with that. You just if it's got to be a very obvious what the message is. It can't just be 2 of your favorite characters having a very meaningful interaction, because you'd have to explain who the characters are and why it's meaningful. And really, we need an image that does that all on its own, right? Sort of a self-contained message. So if you are curious, let me know. Obviously, pictures need to be school appropriate. No porn. I know I hate I have to say that, but I have to say it. So, um, and I think really that's it. If you have any questions about what the image that you want to use, you can always email me. If you have any questions about any outstanding assignments up till now, you can email me. And I would say keep an eye on your email this week, as I may make an announcement regarding missing assignments. We'll take a look at that. But other than that, that's all I have for you guys for right now. I probably won't be putting out another video before spring break, so I wish you guys a great spring break, and I'm available over spring break via email. It may take me a little bit longer to get to you, but I will be available, so be sure to email me if you have any questions, and have a good one.